the day after the Wrath of Kane came out by Big Daddy Kane,
Mm-hmm.
then he became Tariq became he gave me some title I didn't want, like divine. I was like divine technician on the drumsticks. And I was like, that isn't how do you wait, I gotta spell that? Like that's my name? But his was all right. His name, it was what was the acronym? He was Hawk Smooth.
Hawks.
Hawk Smooth, because that's when at the beginning of Wrath of King, he's like giving a shout out, Hawk Smooth. Like he's naming like his whole crew. So Tariq's like, my name's Hawk.
Together.
And then he was like, Hawk Smooth stood for hype African.
Come on, man. Come
Wait, even your whole crew's laughing behind the camera. Hype African warrior.
No, man. Come on, man.
I'm sorry, Tariq, man. I'm sorry, man.
Oh yeah, we gonna have to talk to Rick about Hawk Smooth.
Hype African warrior, kicking it smooth.
Come on.
And our name was Black to the Future.
Okay.
So
Black
we
to
were
the
Black to
Future.
the Future. I actually, and the thing was, Tariq would also conceptualize our logo because he was an art guy.
Right.
So I really liked Black to the Future.
Yeah, Black to the Future's dope.
And then 3 Feet High and Rising came out.
Uh-huh.
And then suddenly, like, what was so game changing about 3 Feet High and Rising was all bullying, and like you can't be an alt black kid. Like I would walk the streets with like my mom was like fashion hip.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like I had holes in my jeans, walking through the hood. I'd have paint on my pants.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your mom let you put all that paint on you? Like why would you waste a pair of like, you know, good play clothes? You know, why would you do that to I was that kid that just looked different than
Mm-hmm.
any other kid. You know what I'm saying? So suddenly, I'll say 2 months into Yo TV Raps, when De La Soul is really becoming part of the fiber of hip hop.
Yeah.
Then suddenly all those bullies on my block were like, oh, okay. You like them De La Soul kids, right?
They see what tribe you belong to.
Oh, okay. Ah, damn, all right, you cool, man. I see what you. And suddenly I'm like, damn, I don't have to figure out like an alternative route to get toilet paper. And, like I was that kid, like literally every day, like Amir, go to the store is one of the most terrifying things that you could ever say to me, because literally it's like you open the door and you're looking left and right, and it's Chancey and Charles, the bullies over there, and you like running, creeping under, like it was like Vietnam. And suddenly, like I became cool again.
Uh-huh.
And so even in school, like Tariq was like, what the hell is that? Like, why you look like Aunt Jemima? I'm just like, this is a do-rag. Like, people wear do-rags. Him and the thugged out dudes was just like, wait, you wear different socks? And, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
I was just always that person. So kind of when De La Soul came out, Tariq started to morph. Like the Amir effect was suddenly wearing off on Tariq, and he was like, yo, man, we gotta change the name, man. We gotta be Square Roots. And I was like, all right, cool. And he's like, and my name's Black Thought. And I was like, good, because I do not want to be divine technician on the drum. I said, matter of fact, I don't want to be anything. And we just had a list of names of everything. And he had one big giant question mark there, because it's sort of like, I don't know, that could be a name, like that sort of thing.
Your
And
name
I
was
was like,
Shrug.
that's the name I want. So, because the thing was, I knew then that whatever name is chosen, it's going to be dated the second. It's like
Right.
buying a car.
As soon
Like
as you pick it, losing value.
right. And so I wanted to be just nothing.
Huh.
But the problem was, eventually, once we got a record deal, doing all the interviews, especially in the European press, press, and they were like, so Mark, would you like? I was like, wait, why are you calling me Mark?
You question mark?
Right. And they're like, so you question mark? And I was like, no, I'm just, and I don't get it. And then it was like, all right. So then when Do You Want More came, then I did my version of hype African warrior kicking the smooth.
And BRO.
Right. I was like, most pretentious. I was like, I'll be Brother Question. So I was like beat recycler of the rhythm. question.
I had that written down.
Right. But then the press was like, brother? And I was like, damn.
Oh, they were putting the question mark with it.
Yeah.
And
So
thinking
everyone's
that
like,
brother?
so, brother? Right. And I was like, no. So then finally by Philadelphia Half-Life, I was just like, I got to go old school. So Quest Quest Rock, or Questlove. And there was a kid in school. He was like the coolest kid. Like he had all the fresh Benetton gear and all that stuff. And his name was William Love. And like the girls like William Love. So they would actually say his whole name, like William Love. And I was like, all right, I got to be Questlove. And also probably because I overdosed on De La Soul is Dead and them call themselves like, Pos Love, Mace Love, Duff, like that sort of thing. I was like, and Run Love and Buff Love from the Fat Boys. So I was like, all right, let me be Love. And then finally I found a home. But what happens with us is I have an audition for Juilliard. I have an audition.
What year is this?
This is 1992.
Okay, 92.
So my gap year is now about to turn into its second year. Because the thing is, the insurance job is paying awesomely. And, I'm now like making, even though I'm making more with my father's activity is sort of slowing down in the 90s. Like it's hard to find people that want to hear 50s music.
Right.
Because now they want 70s music.
Right. Now that's come back around.
Right. So my insurance job is sort of sustaining my then lifestyle of living off of like, kind of like $1,000 a week, which I'm only spending on records. You know what I mean? So what happens is I have an audition for Juilliard, and I'm taking a train up there. Tariq's going with me. I have a friend that also lives there that goes to the school, and he's going to let me crash at the apartment. So here's the one fact I forgot to mention, which is my schoolmates, a group named Boys to Men, finally started popping maybe like 6 months before. And they shoot a video for their debut single, Motown Philly, and they asked me to drum in the video. And I get all of a 2.3, yeah, so why do I know the exact decimal point? Like a 2.3 second cameo in that video. And I just milked the shit out of that moment. It was to the point where, like, I had a special art shirt with a peace sign on it and all that stuff, and I wore Oshkosh B'gosh with like paint on it. And it was to the point where, like, every weekend when Tariq and I would hang out, I'd be like, all right, I'm ready to go. And Tariq be like, nah, man. I was like, come on, man. It's in the dirty pile. Come on, dog. You know the drill. Go ahead, man. Change your clothes. So every weekend I would have to go upstairs and put on the Motown Philly outfit.
Wow.
With the painted shirt and that stuff. And we would just walk down South Street, walk up South Street, and, collect this Jones number, collect that girl's number. All right, let's go do a tour at the Gallery Mall, the same mall Will Smith mentions, and, walk there, walk back. And so I had localized notoriety as the Motown Philly drummer. Not to mention, at that period of being a Philadelphia and rocking your hair in plaits and twists was totally new and kind of like some radical, like, you have snakes in your head, boy. Like now it's just,
right.
like, you look very normal now, but back in
then,
1991,
it was a statement. Yeah.
Like, people just walk down the block, like, and that's always been me. Like, I've always had like Chia Pet, giant, hair, afro, and cry to my mom like, I want to cut my hair, whatever, and like, no, you must never cut your hair. So, where Tariq and I are coming home from that audition, right? And this is somewhere in between the Grey Poupon commercial and the last scene in Dumb and Dumber. Yo, the finest girl you would ever see, like slow motion, like think of that Wayne's World Dreamweaver moment. Like, she comes up to me and she's like, yo, aren't you? Now, here's the deal. Like, there were various videos like that at the time. Like, I could have been Chocolate, who's the drummer in Mariah Carey's video, the Bucket Guy, who also, she says, yo, aren't you? You're the drummer. And I was like, yeah. In the Spike Lee Levi's commercial, right? And my dumb ass was like, no, that's not me. And she's like, oh, okay. And she walks away, and Tariq's like, dumb motherfucker, why'd you? And I was like, well, duh, it wasn't me, man. So, like, what was I going to do? Lie to her? That wasn't me. She's like, yo, man, you could have got a number. I was like, oh, well, she thinks I'm that. Like, I totally missed that opportunity. And so the next day, so we get to my parents' house. We crash in the living room. The next day, Soul Train comes on.
Mm-hmm.
And then that commercial comes on. That Spike Lee has the bucket drummer guy in Times Square playing buckets and whatnot. And that was our eureka moment. Like, literally, we see that commercial. Tariq still steaming about, like, me just letting that girl go to waste. And suddenly we looked at the commercial, and then we looked at each other. We looked at the commercial. Yo, why don't we just do that?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, why don't we? And literally, like, I mean, I wouldn't interrupt my Soul Train activity for nothing. The addiction is strong to Soul Train. And then in a half hour, it was like, he's like, okay, I'm gonna go home. I was like, I don't have no buckets though. And my mom will kill me if I take the pot and, the pot from the kitchen. That's our one pot.
Right.
And he's like, I got you covered. His grandma was like very fond of chitlins.
Okay,
so
there's plenty of buckets around.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm going to run to my grandma's house and get the big giant white bucket.
Yeah.
And then that's what we're going to do. So literally, pew, he runs to South Philly. He's like, all right, meet me, in front of the Baby Gap on South Street at exactly 3:30 p.m. It's like 12 something. So sure enough, I get there. He has a bag. He has the bucket. I have my drumsticks. And I was like, all right, we got to find a crate. I look over in the alleyway. There's a crate. And I was like, so what do we do? Just start playing. Just do what you saw in the commercial. And I started bucket drumming. And he just started freestyling. And here's the deal. Like, instantly, someone comes like, yo, where'd I put the money?
Right.
And we didn't think about that.
We didn't think about it.
So we're in front of a Baby Gap, and next to a Baby Gap is like a Foot Locker. So somehow a shoebox materialized. I don't know, some in the alleyway or whatever. So the deal is, like, if we're only doing $25 worth of business or $30 worth of business, then Tariq and I will probably see each other on Facebook or something like, yo, you remember that time when we freestyled on, kids, like back in the day, I did that too. But in 4 hours, we made about $110,
Wow.
which is like, yo, we can now, this is date night in the money. Like, we can go to Wawa, buy a quarter pound of turkey. Like, Tariq had it all planned. Like, yo, tomorrow, you get your joint, I'll get my joint, and then get a blanket, and then we'll go to Wawa, we'll get turkey, cheese, we'll get rolls, we'll steal the condiments from the thing, and, we can have a picnic, and that's date night. And then, if we get to the movie theater before 6 p.m., we can get to the, the $3.30. Like, it's date night.
Wow.
And we have enough money for a trans pass to. And I was like, yo, we're rich. We're rich. Now, mind you, I sell insurance making like $1,000 something a week. But this to me is like, oh, we're definitely doing this shit again next week. And so then we do it next week. And what's different is by the third week, I'm still in some sort of jazz program while I'm trying to pay for college, which I've yet to, get into. I'm definitely going to go starting in late '93. And a friend of mine, Josh Abrams, who's in this jazz program with me, he hears about, like, so I hear, like, you guys are busking on the streets and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, man, we're doing that. And so what winds up happening is he's like, yo, so y'all going to do it again next week? I was like, yeah, we're going to do it. He's like, can I come? I said, sure. So he picks me up, and I see his upright bass in the back.
Oof. And
I get the bucket and stuff. He's like, well, yo, I got the station wagon. I was like, what are you saying? He's like, bring your real drums out. And I was like, oh, man, my dad's going to kill me, man. I don't think I could do that. He's like, well, isn't your dad away for? Okay. All right. And it's like, making sure my mom's upstairs or whatever. And I put the bucket back, and I'm like sneaking the stuff to the car. Meep, meep. So we set up on South Street, and basically
This is the next week, or
this is 3 weeks later.
3 weeks, 3
So
weeks later.
the only way I can mark the occasion is whenever the Greek picnic weekend is in Philadelphia, is 2 weeks after that in the summer of 1992. And that's when the Roots as you know it truly comes alive.
And this is Square Roots still then, though.
We were Square Roots. We had to change the name eventually because there was a Philadelphia band who had registered the name Square Roots. And they were super litigious, like, you guys can't advertise, we see flyers with Square Roots, and that's, they just had the copyright name, but they really weren't active like that. So what will wind up happening is now that I'm playing real drums and he's playing upright bass, and mind you, it's 1992. So even though we're not writing, like we have yet to write a song, and my idea of like music is whatever the Bomb Squad is doing, which is like, it's just, let me take 17 samples and crush them all together. And there's no sense of melody or whatever. It's just like real avant-garde sounding. But now we're in a place where like it's 1992. So like my bass player Josh is like, let's just do all the low end theory. So he just starts with do 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 do, and Tariq's rhyming to that. And then, like we literally went through every cut on the low end theory, which is basically drums and upright bass. And then by week number 4, Josh has like a repertoire, like any song that ever had upright bass, be it like Double X Posse's Not Gonna Be Able to Do It.
Not gonna be able to do it.
Right. I used to say, I thought he was saying knocking on the edge of the door.
Can you do it?
Knocking on the edge of the door. Right. So, all the digging in the crates, like all the post, native tongue group, like Showbiz and AG, like all those groups that are now going through their Blue Note jazzy records to make up stuff. And, suddenly we have like a strong 2 hours of music repertoire. And the thing is, Tariq, I mean, we don't know anything about the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour thing, but what he's doing, he's just literally stretching his vocabulary muscle. What was key to that was there was a rapper signed to Epic Records back in 92. His name was Han Soul.
Okay.
And Han Soul had crazy curly hair, sort of native tonguish, like alt rapper, whatever. He had a song called Imagination. He was a local Philly rapper, and he kind of took a liking to us, like, okay, I'm gonna mentor you guys, whatever. Like he had one little local hit that was like kicking on radio, and he took us around to a show that he was doing, and it was a big deal. Like he was like playing us the new, like, there's a group called Cypress Hill, y'all should check this out. Me and Tariq in the back, like, oh my God, this guy sounds like King at Rock, but black, like from the Beastie. Like it was like that sort of experience. On the way home, Han Soul decides that he's going to freestyle the entire, from leaving the club until he drops us off. And me and Tariq was like, that's the level of excellence I got to get to. So having that experience with Han Soul made Tariq like a vocabulary monster. Because in his mind, and there was also like there was an article in the Source, because Cypress Hill recorded on Rough House Records, which was a Philly label. Incidentally, I interned there also that year. And, even though Be Real meant like Philly was boring, the Source was asking like, so you guys flew to Philadelphia to record this record, like, what was the experience like? And, Be Real was like, man, Philly's whack, yo. But I know what he meant. Like, I knew the hotel they were staying at. I know, like, they just
the part of town they weren't experiencing.
Holiday Inn on a boring street and go straight to the studio, not knowing anyone there to show them around. So, yeah, I would say too that Philly's whack. But we kind of took that as like, oh, they think we're whack. And plus, like, what was hitting at Philly at the time was sort of like the post-drug dealer rapper, Steady B, Cool C. Now, we idolized 3 Times Dope, so they weren't too corny. But the only like cat that they would hang with, like Kwame was always in Philadelphia every weekend, hanging with 3 Times Dope and, that crew. But for the most part, if you're a rapper in Philly, Jeff and Will, or you're steady being Cool C.
I mean, and because Schoolie D was before that anyway, right?
He was, but after Saturday Night, the record, things kind of waned off creatively, so it wasn't, like after Park Sci-Fi, like after his second record, things kind of waned off. So, in our mind, we were like, in order for us to make a mark, we got to be better than all these like drug dealer looking rappers from Philly, but we got to be on par with the people that we idolize. So like the excellence of De La Soul, the excellence of A Tribe Called Quest, like we have to out rhyme them, out strategize. Like in order for us to even get half of a chance, we got to be like 4 times as good or as hungry.
Right.
So that's kind of the mentality we had. So pretty much all the summer of 1992 was basically on weekends that my dad wasn't having a gig. We would start on South Street around 1 in the afternoon, go to like 4 p.m. And between that 3-hour period, there's going to be a head rap sister like, peace, brothers. It starts with that. And we got 5 colleges in Philly.
Right.
So like, yeah, I'm with the poetry from Drexel University, and we would like y'all to come. Do you guys have a card or anything? So by that point, each week, like someone else is latching on, like, our version of Project Blowed or our version of Native Tongues, like, they're gravitating towards us. And there was someone that was going to play the role of manager. She comes in and takes cards and whatnot. So it's always guaranteed that we're going to do a coffee shop, a black boho coffee shop experience. And there's going to be a chance that we're going to do, there's always some guy that's sort of like, yeah, I don't like rap music, but I like you guys. And so suddenly we're asked to play like JC Dobbs. Like this is the place where like Nirvana will give their first show. So there's this like white club culture on South Street that is absolutely closed to any other rapper in Philly. But, you guys seem safe enough to, come into our spot.
I mean, it's the image and probably the fact that y'all are playing instruments too.
Yeah. Like, I don't like rap, but I like you guys. So that was kind of like, it was guaranteed that we will get 4 types of gigs in the week during the weekday. Like, so Wednesday we got to go to Temple University, and then Friday we got to do JC Dobbs, and then,
But always on the weekend coming back to South Street.
Always,
as long as you're
that's how we get our work. And so the very last week, our version of Stretch Armstrong and Bobbito, a gentleman named AJ Shine.
That's the name I was going to ask about later, but yeah.
Yeah, so AJ Shine hears about this group that knows how to play live break beats, and the drummer sounds like a break beat, and the rapper knows how to freestyle his ass off. And so we're getting our first invite into regular Philadelphia hip-hop community.
Real quick, though, as you are getting these shows on the weekend and doing them during the week, is it just you and Tariq, or is it the bass player too, or how's the personnel thing happening?
So right now, we've sort of gathered what we will now call, our first clique was called the Foreign Objects.
The Foreign Objects is another question.
Right. So that will be this kid that Tariq went to school with. All right. So there was a period where Tariq got kicked out of performing arts. His last 2 years, he had to go to Germantown High School. And it's at Germantown High School where like this other kid, Kenyatta Bell, a.k.a. Kid Crumbs, becomes like the fife to his Q-tip.
Gotcha.
Like his crony. And for me, like, Josh and I, so I guess you could say that the square roots were a foursome.
Gotcha.
And the last week of summer, before September, Josh is basically like, well, I can't do it anymore after this because I got to go to Northwestern University in Chicago. And so I'm like, damn, there's no more bass player and there's no more station wagon. So I don't know. Is this the end? On top of that, Tariq is going to Millersville University, which is very crucial to our development. So in my mind, I'm just thinking like, okay, well, that was a fun 1992. And I guess now I got to figure out, how to hustle and grind to get into college or whatever. And this is what happens. We get an invite to play a strip club called the Princess Lounge in North, N-O-R-F, North Philadelphia. And I was like, wait, the Princess Lounge up in North Philadelphia? And I'm like, dude, I'm wearing Birkenstocks. Like, I don't think this is going to work, yo. And so slight trepidation. We're like showing up, with our bags of popcorn, and like, because now we have a thing, like we started to develop a song called Pass the Popcorn. And
okay.
like, so now we're taking like $5 and sending someone in the store to buy these big giant bags of popcorn that we'll throw in the audience, so we're like walking through the strip club with all these other rappers, and they're just looking at us like it's like the Me, Myself, and I video, like, right. Who are these guys? Like, whatever. So total underestimation, and they're like, all right, coming up next, yeah, I heard a lot about these guys, so yeah, give it up, for the Roots, and be like, and something like what came out? Oh, you know what it was? So In God We Trust by Brand Nubian,
second album, right?
Yeah, had just came out, and Punk'd Up to Get Beat Down was like the single of the summer.
Yeah.
Diamond D had did a remix to it, which was mostly all upright bass.
That's the one with the Rocky sample, I think, right?
Right. Well, the version we know is the Isley Brothers. It's just, but there's a remix that's just all upright bass that Diamond D did, and we had mastered it. Now it's to the point where like we're listening to radio and whatever is, So I was like, all right, we're gonna go Diamond D bass for Brand Nubian, and then go right into Bugging Out by Tribe Called Quest and da-da-da-da-da. And literally just like 5 seconds in, their jaws just dropped, like, because it was just the novelty of seeing someone create with their hands in real time what they're used to a record or
sounding like.
Right. And I wasn't like these drummers that are like overplaying and doing like
a bunch of fills
gospel job. Yeah. Right. I'm sounding just like the breakbeat. Like, and it's just 3 drums. Like, we look like the Fat Albert,
the Junkyard,
like the Junkyard Band. Like, so there's an appeal to the struggle look of this group. And Tariq's rhyming his ass off, like sitting in the Princess Lounge, and people are like, damn, like high-fiving each other and all that stuff. So at the end of the night, the host of the show, he's like, yo, I'm AJ Shine. I'm like, you're AJ Shine? Oh my God. Like, he is the Bobbito and the Stretch Armstrong,
I see,
of Philadelphia. The underground DJ.
The curator.
Yeah, because Philly radio was more like, more music, less rap. Like,
just coming at y'all head.
Right. So there was no place to listen. Drexel University had like that was the source for which we could get our hip hop fix. And it was on Sundays from like 1 in the afternoon to 4, and you recorded, oh, yo, the Scenario remix. And that's how we got our feel for what was hip. And he was like, yo, like, I want to do something more with y'all. And we're just like, well, what you talking? And he says like, yo, like, I just came into some money. I think like he had an accident or something like that, and settlement money, whatever. Yeah. And he's like, yo, I want to get y'all in the studio. We're like, us in the studio? And now it's like, wait a minute. We had a talk that night, and it's like, okay, so what do we do? And Tariq's like, I'm not going back to Millsville. Like, I'm going to pursue this. And I was like, well, damn, if you're not going to go to college, like, how am I going to tell my dad? And I was like, I just decided I'm not going to tell my dad. I'm not going to go to Curtis or Juilliard. I'm going to go and pursue this dream. He thinks that's what I'm going to do. He thinks like I'm getting up every day, going to work my insurance job and have money saved up in the bank. But nah, I'm going to do this. I tell this all the time, and people like laugh. My dad didn't find out about the Roots. I successfully hid it from him until Do You Want More came out.
Get out of here.
Like, because I couldn't hide it. Like, local Philly rappers, like in the Sunday paper, and he's like, what's this? Is this you? I think so. Is it that hoodlum Tariq? That's who you hang out with? Like, and it was like, yeah, and literally, like, he found out the night that if you have Do You Want More, that version of Say What Man that's live in performance, that was our signing party. So I had already let a year and a half go by. He knew nothing about the Roots. And, you know, I had a record deal. I had an advance. We have recorded the record. And then it was like, hey, Dad, we have a signing party. Signing party for what? Well, you know, I have a group. And that's how we found out. But what winds up happening is he introduces us to his partner. So not only is he the local hip hop radio show DJ, but he also has time on public access channel for Drexel, and he records a show called The Avenue, which is like his version of
Ralph McDaniels.
He's also the Ralph McDaniels of Philadelphia. And him and his partner, the partner that does the camera, is a gentleman by the name of Richard Nichols. And so Richard Nichols is his camera guy, and their proposition is like, well, we want to be the record label and do business, but they eventually wind up being the management. And we go into the studio, and the night before the studio, whatever night we went in the studio was the night that Cool Like That by Diggable Planets came out. And that totally just blew my mind. Like, yo, this is the group that I think we should sound like. But the thing is that when we were going to the studio, I was getting my records and my samples ready. And when I got to the studio, they were like, wait, what are you doing with the records? I was like, we're going to make a song, right? He's like, no. What I saw y'all do in the nightclub,
do that.
That's what y'all should do. And that became like a heavily heated, contested, like, debate. Like, nah, man, like, because in my mind, I wanted the Bomb Squad meets Native Tongues. Like, I was ready. A good example, if you remember Leaders in the New Schools, like Sailing to the Zeekers, like where the music's changed every 3 seconds. Yo, that's the thing. I was like, I wanted to show off my mental intelligence of samples and all that stuff. And now you're like, oh man, I got to be the drummer in the studio too. So I like begrudgingly was like, all right, well, let me just do this. Well, Rich's job is he's the world's greatest Jedi mind trick human ever. And his whole thing, and this to this day, like, I mean, he's gone from us, but his thing was always like, yo, let's just A/B it. Like, all right, we'll do it your way. But I mean, just for now, can we just do this real quick and then we'll do it your way? No one going, well, that we ain't going to do it.
It never gets back to
right. So then now it's like we never wrote a song together in the studio. So I'm like, well, our whole song catalog is based on Tribe and Native Tongues and whoever uses upright bass. Like, we never wrote an original song in our life. So just like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And just with like seconds left on the clock, I happened to be listening to Steve Ferrone and Alan Gorey's bass and drum solo on the 18-minute version of the Average White Band's Pick Up the Pieces. So check it. All right, so right here. So that's sort of the song I had in my head. So I played it for Josh, and I was like, yo, just do this bass line in a whole different key, and then that'll be Past the Popcorn. So we get in the studio, and we do Past the Popcorn, and we literally had that song done in about 50 minutes. And, you know, when you typically go in the studio, you know, they had like 6 hours blocked out.
Right.
And we did that song. And then they were like, well, what else you got?
Yeah.
It's like, shit. And then I had a copy of James Brown's The Payback album. So I played Josh Stone to the Bone. Do 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 do. I was like, learn this. Okay, we got it. Rolling. And then we knocked out Anti-Circle in a half hour.
Get out of here.
And then they're like, well, what else you got? And I was just running out of ideas, and then I was like, jazz class. So we would do a version of Night in Tunisia. Do, 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 do. I was like, let's do a remix to Pass the Popcorn or whatever. So then we knocked that out.
First session.
Like that's the thing. And then they were like, dog, like the average rap song takes about 8 hours to construct, like, because we don't know how to operate the sampler. So you got to like play the record for the engineer, and he has to figure it out. So if we were to make a traditional rap record where you don't know how to make beats, then you're at the mercy of the speed of the engineer's quickness to put stuff together. And they're like, dude, y'all knocked out 3 songs in like 2 hours. Why would you ever want to go back? So we just basically started mixing it. And I'm like observing Otto, our engineer, and he's like fattening things up or whatever. And we went home that night with 3 songs.
Stony Island Audio.